Well, joining me now, the man himself, Erick Erickson, one of the organizers of today's meeting to stop Donald Trump. I have your statement here, Erick. You talk about being a grassroots conservative activist and ensuring real conservative values. And you say the issue of Donald Trump is greater than the issue of the party, and you talk about morals and character. But a lot of people are questioning your morals and character. And you heard Newt Gingrich saying what you guys are doing essentially is helping to elect Hillary Clinton. Is it worth it?
Well, you know, 19 of the last 20 polls without a third party show that Hillary Clinton beats Donald Trump without a third party. So I think that this is on Trump voters if Hillary Clinton gets elected. I mean, all the data shows she'll get elected if Trump's the nominee.
All right, so, but here's the thing, though. You say that you want to keep your options open. Essentially, when this whole thing started, and a lot of powerful people within the GOP thought that maybe Donald Trump would be a nuisance, but they wanted to contain him or corral him, if you will. There was a big public effort to make him sign a pledge. I would assume a lot of people who are in your effort might have signed or sort of pushed a product for the same pledge to be signed. Why shouldn't you agree to the same pledge that that was foisted upon Donald Trump?
I'm a voter. I'm not running for president. And, you know, I think we should distinguish. There were two meetings today. One was a meeting in Florida of some of the major Republican donors, and then there was a meeting in D.C. today of the conservative grassroots activists. That was the meeting I was a part of, not the one of the donors. And none of us are running for president. We're just Republican conservative voters, and we are putting our principles and ideas ahead of a political party.
You know, you talk about the idea that a lot of you guys have worked for decades on the work in conservatism, and I agree you have. I think there are a lot of good people out there who have stood up for the conservative cause for decades, long before Donald Trump got into the political fray, who have been sort of maligned in this whole thing. But I think the civil war within the party is actually doing a lot more harm than good. Is there a point when you start to consider that?
Well, I think the harm comes from people who have been really committed to limited government and free enterprise and suddenly see that the party they've been aligned with no longer is committed to those ideals, at which point it's no longer a party for them. And if that's the reality, well, we've had new political parties rise in this country over time.
In your statement, those ideals that you're referring to, I guess, would include free markets, limited government, national defense, religious liberty, life, and marriage. What of those things do you think Donald Trump has gone astray on?
Well, I think on national defense, you've got Donald Trump thinking he can tell troops to kill the families of terrorists. I think on limited government, Donald Trump is saying what government can do for him.
He did come out and say he wouldn't do that.
Donald Trump clarifies everything. You can't get a straight answer from him on anything. On limited government, he's very much authoritarian on what Washington is going to do for people to make things good instead of people doing it for themselves. On life, he was pro-abortion until he needed to convert. On marriage, he's had 3 of them, so he seems to be very pro-marriage. I just don't believe Donald Trump on anything.
Grand old party, GOP. Some are saying it's simply old. It's been something of a dinosaur for a long time, and perhaps it needs to evolve like a lot of other things. And if you don't agree with that, and I guess probably you don't, it sounds like you're prepared to start a third party.
Oh, yeah, listen, I think if the Republican Party changes from its core values, then it's time for those of us who support the core values to go elsewhere. I mean, that's just life and reality. And yeah, if the Republican Party moves beyond us, we'll go elsewhere. No harm, no foul. But we're committed to our ideas, not necessarily to a party. And if Donald Trump can't win because of it, well, that's on Trump, not on us.
All right, guys, I want to bring in the rest of the panel. I've got STACEY Dash and former Senator Scott Brown. STACEY, even though you're not wearing green, I'm going to start with you.
How do you know?
Whoa, excuse me. There'll be a few commercial breaks. Anyway, you were sitting here, you were listening to what Erick had to say, and I could feel you sort of wanting to jump in. Where is he getting this wrong? Where is he wrong?
Well, because I think he's wrong about Trump, first of all, and him not being a conservative. He is a conservative. And what's wrong with someone changing their mind? I mean, we want Democrats to change their minds about becoming Republicans, right? So there's nothing wrong with changing your mind, and I applaud him for admitting it, for saying, yes, I was this way at one time, and now I've changed my mind, I've learned, I've become wiser. And Hillary Clinton, if we don't stand behind Trump, we are setting the floor for Hillary Clinton to win. A criminal, a liar, responsible for the 4 deaths of American patriots, a woman who should be indicted for a spillage of classified information that was kept in her barn as opposed to a skiff where it should have been. So I mean, I don't understand. To me, this is treason. He's a Benedict Arnold. That's what I think.
Senator Brown, you've played peacemaker throughout the process. You do work with Donald Trump. You helped him in Massachusetts and other places. And I know a lot of the people that attended Erick's event and some of these others are friends of yours. How do we get around this? How do we address these issues that Erick brought up, Donald Trump, with respect to free markets, limited government, national defense, liberty, religious liberties, and marriage, and those kind of things?
Sure. Well, first of all, my mom and dad were married and divorced 4 times each. So I guess Erick's calling my dad, who was an elected official, who completed his terms, unlike what Erick did when he ran for office. Apparently, my dad is not conservative. So this these broad brush strokes over people and their character, quite frankly, has no place in politics, especially in our party. You have a choice. Erick and others have a choice. And yes, they are my friends, and I'm reaching out to them as is expected, as people like me and others should do to our friends who maybe aren't saying, who are saying, you know what, we're just not comfortable with them. Well, once again, the choice is crystal clear. There's no perfect conservative candidate coming through that door. And if you put a third-party independent candidate up, it's going to take the votes away from the Republicans because the Democrats aren't coming over, and you're going to have Hillary Clinton. That's it, period. So you have a choice, and then you can bitch and moan, and you can complain all you want when Hillary's the president and they're picking the liberal Supreme Court justices. Don't forget, we still have a check and balance, Charles. We still have the Senate. Hopefully we'll keep the Senate with efforts like what Erick and others are doing. We'll probably lose the Senate, too. Then what?
Erick, you've been called a Benedict Arnold, and that you're doing more harm than good to the cause, by the way, that to the cause that you have fought for years.
Right. You know, I mean, this is what Trump supporters have, is typically personal insults. They don't really have any logic for anything other than the personal insults. And, you know, that's not going to help them.
I gave you logic.
It's not going to help them with Donald Trump. He's not going to be president of the United States with or without a third party. All of the polling is very consistent on this. The Republicans, if they nominate Donald Trump, are going to nominate the only politician in America more unpopular and less trustworthy than Hillary Clinton. That's not where you start when you want to beat Hillary Clinton. But that's the reality of it with them, and I'm not going to play part of it.
Unpopular? I believe he's very popular, and I think he's just getting started.
Well, let's face it, Erick. I mean, he's won the overall majority of these states. We see 25,000, 30,000,
but he hasn't won majorities of delegates. He's
won the
to get over 45%.
He's beaten his competitors, and when you say he's not popular, I understand what polling says, but I also understand when I see a room or in a stadium with 30,000 people.
Well, Charles, that's just being willfully naive there.
Why is that
that's just flat out naive, because the data shows that Donald Trump is more unpopular than Hillary Clinton. Donald Trump for months went on the campaign trail saying the polling shows, the polling shows, the polling shows. Well, the polling shows.
Are you basing who you vote on because of a poll, or are you basing it on things that you have fought your entire life on?
I'm telling you the reality. I'm telling you the reality. He's not going to beat Hillary Clinton. You can bring me back in November when he's lost, and we can replay this clip.
Senator
He won't beat Hillary.